What is up, people of the world? Welcome to the Catch the Sky podcast. I am your host, Terry, aka Sweet Tea. You can catch me on Twitter at CTSTerry or on Facebook by searching Catch the Sky podcast. Anybody that knows me personally knows that this has been a long time coming, so I appreciate your tuning in for that reason in particular. This is something I probably should have done about maybe a year ago, but everybody knows that life moves at its own pace for each individual, so that's something that we try to respect here on the show, and something that, you know, we hope that you'll pick up along the journey. Just to give you a little background on the show before we delve too deeply into anything, I was born and raised in Pennsylvania in the United States of America. Spent most of my life here, but I have traveled around the world. I've been to 9 different foreign countries. I like to think of myself as a little bit cultured, a little bit more so than just being stuck in one place for my entire life. I have a degree in mathematics from Penn State University, so I like to think of most of my opinions as logic-based. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm a huge Penn State fan or college sports fan in general. I mostly stick to professional sports. My allegiances lie heavily with the Cleveland Browns, so you guys are going to be getting an earful about them this year. I also like the Indians and the Cavs. And as far as hockey goes, I am a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I actually liked them before any other professional sports team, seeing as I was a hockey player growing up. You know, I always loved getting out there on the ice and everything. So anybody that's a hockey fan out there can feel free to interact with our Twitter page, at CTS Terry. On Twitter, you can find us, or on Facebook. You can search the Catch the Sky podcast and interact with us there. We look forward to your fan interactions and posts and whatever you feel like throwing our way there. Keep it within the limits, though. So, moving forward with the show, I chose the Catch the Sky podcast as the title. People know that that is also the name of a former band that I was in that is no longer in existence. The title of the podcast is a simile, you know, for mankind's never-ending pursuit of progress, I guess, would be the best word to use. You know, if one is to say that the sky is the limit, then to try to catch the sky would be an unending pursuit that mankind will forever be on. So that kind of encompasses what this show is going to aim to target, is mankind's pursuit of progress and our faults along the way, but also our successes. And we will celebrate all of them equally and see what we can learn from them moving forward and hopefully make the world a better place. So I appreciate you continuing to listen to the show. As always, you can interact with us at CTS Terry on Twitter, or you can go to Facebook and search Catch the Sky podcast and find us there. And I enjoy you tuning in and hope you enjoy the rest of our show. The next segment of our show will contain a conversation between me and a dear friend of mine. Hopefully what we will be discussing will resonate with some people around the world in a variety of manners. We discuss politics, family, mental health, a couple different things. So we appreciate you tuning in and appreciate your feedback and hope that we can resonate with you, our listeners, and make this show a place you can turn to if you ever feel like you have questions about the world. Yeah, I think this should be pretty good.
11:55.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's pretty good.
And we're cooking.
Yeah,
we're cooking with gas.
Yeah. With whatever the fuck we throw on the fucking grill.
Nice.
Yeah, anything that's flammable and explosive. Blow off some eyebrows.
I've actually told that story many a times.
Well, I mean,
on account of you blowing your face up.
well, I mean, I guess what confused me so much was that your everyday charcoal
could just
explode in your face. Like, I mean,
spontaneously combust into your face and consume you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's more or less what I was getting at. Is like, why the fuck did my grill just explode in my face when I lifted the lid?
To tap off a 3-hour hardcore drinking session with the peripheral of your vision of seeing a man's skull inflamed and a man wiping you down with ice, caring so much about your well-being that he just wipes your face down with ice as your eyebrows are inflamed.
He was so compassionate.
He was so concerned. He was the most concerned.
Very, very compassionate. I guess that happens when you become a father.
Where a man's priorities lie is when you have a child, and when your focus is so much on music and every other thing. Now he's totally consumed by the fact of his... I would hope he's totally consumed by the fact of him being with his significant other and taking care of his child. It's funny where your focus goes once that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Something as a child consuming you, which has also done to me.
Well, yeah. But I mean, it puts in perspective, like, this goes back to what you were talking about before, is just simply caring.
Yeah, when it's something just, bigger than you.
Yeah, it's just simply caring. Is there somebody that...
I think a lot of my problems and depression have it stemmed from no longer caring what people think about you, but what your own offspring thinks about you, your child.
Oh, I mean, that's
I could give a shit what people say about me, and this is something that I've expressed to my parents, that I don't give a shit what people have to say about me. I never cared before, but now that I have a child involved, I give a shit what she thinks about me and how she perceives me.
Well, that's important, and that's something that I think, I mean, not being a parent myself, but I'd hope that any parent would want to relate to.
It's one of the most important things that I've had to deal with, is me trying my best to have my daughter understand, even though me and her mother aren't together, that she understands that I do care a lot about her and that I do wish the best for her, even though it takes in the fact that sometimes I have to be a hard ass and kind of set not so much ground rules, but a structure for her, and she may hate me now for it, but hopefully one day you hope that they understand, that they understand where you're coming from and what you did was the best for them. Now, whether they get that or not is on them, but in my early 30s, I have moved through a phase where I used to get really angry at my parents, and now I have become to understand why they were what they were. My dad and my mother have made plenty of their mistakes, and I don't agree with their parenting, but I've understood where they're coming from now more than ever. When I went through a phase where I was just angry with them.
Yeah.
Very, very angry with them, and trying to ask why they did this, why they did that, but being in the position that I'm in now, I understand more than ever.
Yeah. I mean, being a parent will do that too.
Being a parent is one of the hardest fucking things, and people who don't have kids don't exactly understand it. And when you become a parent, it is one of the hardest things, especially when you're not with your significant other, who you have pretty much spent your whole life around. I mean,
yeah.
Going from, growing up with them, being with your significant other, I would say, to not being together anymore, I guess you try harder, but it gets harder, especially the older they get. Being a 5-year-old compared to what she's going to be when she's 14 is going to be something totally different.
Absolutely.
It's one of the scariest things I've ever had to deal with, and I hear stories of people who have older kids, and I'm like, man, I don't look forward to that, but I also do look forward to it.
Well, I mean, you got to look forward to it one way or another. If you're not looking forward to it, there's no
point.
Yeah.
No point whatsoever.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you're kind of in the position where you got to look forward to it regardless.
Regardless.
Yeah. In a positive light. But at the same time, it's not something that, a whole lot of people, I guess, consciously observe. Like, you're looking at it from multiple perspectives, and a lot of people are just too tied up in
their
own world. Yeah. You know, and not thinking about what's, you know, how this is going to impact the other people involved in this scenario beyond themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's crucially important to be able to look at things through the lenses of other people, you know, and not just yourself. So I think you're obviously off to a great start in that regard. I mean, based on our conversations earlier and being able to convey and be in touch with how you feel and how you view the world, I mean, this already gives you a leg up on a lot of other people, because through, you know, our discussions just between you and I, we have come to the conclusion that there's a lot of people that just don't give a shit about what's going on.
Don't give a shit.
No, I don't give a shit at all. They wake up in the morning, they are brushing their teeth, they're taking their shower, they're eating their breakfast, they're pounding out what they gotta do at work, they're catching the nightly news, and they're going to bed just to repeat it all in the morning.
Right.
Like, they don't give a shit about what they read in the news. They just read the news so that they are ready for any potential conversations that might occur during the day.
Right.
Or to see who died in the obituaries, you know?
I often think about my views on the world and how they're going to affect her. So I try to be, I don't want to say as liberal as possible, but I want her to be open-minded as possible to understand other people's views. And I hope she does.
I think that's important, and I find it, I think it's unfortunate that open-minded is synonymous with being liberal, or in this country, quote-unquote, democratic. How is being open-minded the same as being liberal or progressive? You know what I'm saying? People should have open minds on both sides of the aisles. Because if you're just saying that everybody that's open-minded is liberal, then
and I think that's why I consider myself liberal, because I consider myself, I understand the conservative side, even though I don't agree, but I also I consider myself liberal because I feel like they are more open-minded. There's a reason why they're called liberal, is because
I was just about to say the exact same thing. There's a reason it's called conservative, because they want to conserve the things they know.
Right.
And whereas liberals want to go, forge into the unknown, but in the name of progress, Yeah,
I feel like being liberal does provide more progress more than conservatives, because conservative, that means you're stuck to your beliefs.
Well, yeah, and
then you're going to go by a certain rule of values when, especially with the times they are a changing, and if you're not willing to progress and you're stuck in this and I don't want to just say 1950s mindset, but you're stuck in the same place and you're not progressing yourself.
And that is, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, and that's why it's a dangerous game to call one progressive,
right? Because
shouldn't both parties technically be quote unquote?
Progressive.
Progressive, yeah. Yes. Shouldn't they both be trying to progress?
Yeah.
If we're just talking rationally, they should both be trying to progress. It's not like they're not trying to get somewhere, better. So why do we call one progressive and one conservative?
Right.
This gets into something that we briefly covered on the demo episode with one of our guests in the freedom of choice. He touches on how it's all an illusion. And we've discussed it in our own personal lives. It's all an illusion. We were talking about earlier, George Carlin has a whole segment, the comedian. You know who George Carlin is?
Yes,
the
absolutely.
Comedian. Yeah, everyone knows who he is. Have you ever seen his segment on, It's All a Club?
No, I haven't.
He talks about the government. You got right and left. It doesn't matter. You know what all those people are? Millionaires. You know what you're not? A millionaire.
A millionaire.
So it doesn't matter. Some of them label themselves as progressive. Some of them label themselves as liberal.
all they're doing is labeling themselves as whatever will profit them the most. And what's sad is in their position, they're not lobbying to you and I.
No,
they don't give a fuck about you and I. They're talking to BP. They're talking to Citgo or whoever provides petroleum, provides these raw resources. The people that are mining these resources out of the ground and providing them to the companies that take those resources and convert them into things that can be used by consumers and therefore purchased, they're the ones that they're concerned with. When's the last time you had a representative from your local, state, federal body knock on your door? Every now and then around election season, you might get one or two that's going door to door, talking to people.
Or might hang a flyer on your freaking car door.
They're trying. At least they're trying, But at the end of the day, how often does that happen?
Every 4 years or 2 years when somebody's running up for election.
Yeah, when somebody, and it's usually somebody new, right? It's some no-namer that you've never heard of because it's their first time going through the ringer. And in their eyes, the way that our democratic system is supposed to work is that you're supposed to get the voice of the people. So how do you get the voice of the people? You go door to door.
Right.
Whereas these people that are career politicians, are they going door to door or are they going right to National Fuel's door?
Right.
Or are they going right to First Energy's door?
Mm-hmm.
They're skipping the line, basically. They're skipping the peasants, which is what we are, and they're going right to where the money's at. And that's what gets them elected. You know? Because, and I mean, there's got to be a reason for them to do that, beyond the money. And,
but who are they really helping besides themselves?
Oh, no. They're at the end of the day, they're just helping themselves and they're helping these corporations. But what's unfortunate is you get into the circumstance where we're electing officials to represent us, but unfortunately, it seems like the corporations are the ones more calling the shots.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, say Joe Blow candidate, doesn't matter if he's Republican or Democrat, he can go door to door and try and find out what's bothering everybody in a certain neighborhood. And, say some people have got complaints about how much it costs for electricity or how much it costs for, for natural gas or anything like that. Well, is it worth that candidate's time to go door to door and listen to every single person bitch about how high their gas bill is? Or is it more beneficial for them to just go to the gas company, listen to their laundry list of complaints that they already have from all of the same people?
Mm-hmm.
They can go to one source, get a whole list of people that are complaining about it, and then address the issue that way.
Right.
So if you're looking at it from a single person's perspective, because we have to remember that senators, representatives, on the state, federal level, it doesn't matter, whatever. They're still one person. They're one individual. They can only accomplish so much in a 24-hour period. So is it easier for them to go door to door or have somebody on their behalf go door to door to collect all this information? Or is it easier for them to just say, go to National Fuel and ask them, what are the biggest complaints that you guys have?
Yep.
I mean, what's easier? Going to the
source.
Exactly. Yeah. Going to the provider. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you get into the unfortunate reality of then you've got candidates that are bending to their will, or not bending to their will, but maybe modifying their campaign based on the desires of that company rather than the desires of the people from door to door, because they think that whatever is reflected in you know, the opinion of the company is reflective of the people.
Right.
Simply. And that's it. I had a woman one time in a previous job describe something to me called the economy of steps.
Okay.
And basically the idea is minimizing the number of steps it takes to accomplish a task.
Okay.
So if the idea is to collect data on something like, do people like this or not like this? Are you going to go door to door and get the information yourself? Or are you just going to go to somebody that probably already has that information readily available? It might not be as accurate as going door to door yourself, but it's probably pretty close. They're going to go to probably pretty close, right? I mean, they're going to go to, rather than doing all the legwork themselves, they're going to just take the next closest thing that's reflective of the viewpoint that they're trying to establish.
Right.
You know?
I feel sorry for the fact that we still live. I mean, and you can take this how you want. I still think it's sad that we still live in a black and white area when a lot of more people should be living in the gray. And what I mean by the gray is everybody consuming each idea and just trying to find a common denominator.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's got to be, if more people were to have compassion and understanding, I think we'd be in a lot better place. And I understand people's beliefs and being a conservative and being a liberal, but it doesn't have to be so, you know, argumentative.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And
Like,
that goes back to the point that I mean, it was just more of an opinion piece, but that simple post from, you know, somebody close to me that said, just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I hate you.
right.
You know?
Right.
And that's been more kind of lost over the last couple of years. And it's something that I hit on actually in the very first podcast I attempted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever ended up producing it, but it's something that I hit on, you know, very early on.
Abortion and gun laws. It seems very simple to me, but I don't understand why it doesn't seem simple to anybody else. My views on abortion, which is a very sensitive subject, it should be, as much as we use condoms, birth control from stopping, I don't know what you want to call it.
We call it preventative measures,
right.
Being proactive, whatever. But the idea is the same: is to prevent conception.
Conception.
You don't want to create a life.
Right.
You don't want to create a life. And and to some people, you know, abortion is destroying something, and to others, it's
my view
it's just a reactive measure when proactive measures fail.
Right.
Because there's plenty of people out there that have been in the situation of, I take the pill every day.
Right.
I have an IUD and I still became pregnant.
Right.
And then you need to answer a whole different slew of questions then too, especially for people in those situations that take proactive measures. We have no idea what kind of side effects these birth control pills are going to have on the infant. Like, I asked this to somebody that you and I both know at one point that used to be in that field. They were in pharmaceutical sales for birth control. And their job was to promote new birth control pills. And my first question was, what are the long-term side effects of this? And I wasn't able to get a straight answer.
I don't think you ever would, because...
And you never will.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's... I mean, we can delve into that if we want. That's a whole separate subject on the potential fertility side effects of birth control. But just the fact that you're sitting here willing to pitch this thing to me that you have no idea what it could do to a female's body, and then be pissed when the female decides to not follow through with the pregnancy that is the undesired result, that's where you get into this gray area of, I feel like a lot of, you know, maybe Catholics, pro-life people are like, well, you shouldn't have had sex then. Maybe you shouldn't have had sex if you didn't want a baby. And it's like, I agree, yes. We all understand that sex is what creates babies. Right. We get it. We understand that when a penis enters a vagina and ejaculates, that there's a chance that a baby's gonna be made. Great. Thanks, Charles Darwin, for fucking cracking that code for us. You're such a brilliant fucking human being for decoding that. Oh, wow. You and your infinite wisdom. We should just bow down and praise every person that figured out that a penis entering a vagina could result in a fucking baby. Wow, you know what? We should just write off the fact that it feels good, that people do it for pleasure, that plenty of other species do it for pleasure, that plenty of other species have exhibited homosexual tendencies, which would exhibit that any sort of sexual practice is thus just for pleasure. For some reason, that doesn't apply when it comes to human beings that hold a certain belief.
Right.
That human beings could possibly ever have sex as an expression of emotion, affection, intimacy, pleasure, anything beyond procreation. There's some people that subscribe to the fact that sex is just reserved for procreation and don't see. And I think what's shitty about the situation, I mean, this is my opinion, obviously, is those people think that people are just having sex like just for fun, like, you know, and sometimes it is. I mean, let's just be real. Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it's nice to feel the release from sex.
Yeah, the tension.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and I know that there's, you know, there might be more religious people listening to this that might disagree, but it's if anybody that has ever had sex, if they try to set the religious or their, you know, spiritual beliefs aside, it's just a relieving sensation.
It's human nature.
Exactly.
Right.
You know,
So
you know, what does the fox say? I don't know. I don't fucking know. But he doesn't go to church and say it. He just does it. You know?
Right.
He just does it. It doesn't fucking matter. You know, like, and I want to I do respect those people's positions, but sometimes those people's positions get to the point where they're like not open-minded to other people's positions.
This is where it's kind of a gray area with me with abortion.
Yeah.
I feel as if you're having sex, even if you're on the pill, I don't know how long it necessarily takes for each individual person to realize that they're pregnant, but you know, I feel like they know sooner than, you know, you would before the embryo or whatever inside you is developing brain, a heartbeat. It takes a very long time. I feel like there should be at least, I am pro-life, I mean pro-choice, but I also believe that there should be a timeline to it. If there is a heartbeat or if there's brain activity, you know, you shouldn't be allowed to go through with it. I feel like you should know a little bit in advance.
This is where the discussion turns entirely gray.
Entirely.
Because what you're describing would be
always being on your game as far as knowing if you're pregnant or not.
And that
it shouldn't take you that long of a decision to know if you still want to bring a child into this world or not.
So for example, though, this is the type of situation that you invite given that line of thinking. Women typically go through a menstrual cycle how often? 4 weeks?
4 weeks, once a month, usually. On the average person. Yeah.
Approximately. So say a woman has just recently gone through her menstrual cycle.
Mm-hmm.
She's over it.
Mm-hmm.
You have sex.
Mm-hmm.
Say the result is she's pregnant.
Right.
How long do you expect her... How long do you anticipate it taking her to realize that that's a possibility that she might be pregnant? Say you pulled out, say this, that, and the other. You don't know. Like, she could have become pregnant. Like,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, you could have pulled out and thought that everything was all good, but
right.
pregnancy could have, conception still could have occurred. Now, say I obviously understand ovulation and everything, so say she's a week removed from her period.
Do you feel like it's her responsibility to at least check?
Say you pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
And say you still, by some, let's say for all the religious fanatics out there, quote unquote, by an act of God, you pulled out and somehow she's still pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me it's her job to fucking go buy a pregnancy test every day just to check up on herself for you because you couldn't hold your nut? Like,
right.
That's not her job. And so by the time that she maybe recognizes or should start to be concerned for pregnancy, we are 3 to 4 weeks removed from the act of sex itself, which means 4 to 5 weeks removed from her last period, which gives us about a week until the established heartbeat that you're describing.
Right.
Because they say, what, 6 weeks?
I'm not exactly sure what the number is, but
let's just say for the sake of this conversation, it's 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
You had sex 4 to 5 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just now, it's been about a month later, now she's becoming cognizant of the fact that my period is late.
Right.
Should I be concerned? Maybe, sometimes it's just late. Sometimes it's just late. Like, women go through this every month. They go through this shit 12 times a year.
Yep.
Like, sometimes it's a week late. Sometimes it's a week early. Like, fuck. Like, I'm not a woman. But I know that it's not a regular cycle as much as you want it to be. So they're not freaking out if it's a week late. But if it gets to be a week and a half late, 2 weeks late, then maybe at that point, that's the point where they're deciding, maybe I need to go take a pregnancy test. Maybe now's the time to check. And at that point, this is the time they're deciding to check up on whether or not the fact they're pregnant. And some women might have, more accurate pregnancy tests than others. But now we're already in the 6 week period. It's alive, even if they go to a doctor and try and...
Right.
It doesn't matter because you're past 6 weeks. Imagine figuring out that you're pregnant at 6 weeks.
Yep. Very gray area because the situation's always different.
Exactly.
So I definitely understand that.
How quickly does someone figure out they're pregnant?
Right.
Do they figure it out in the first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? No, it usually takes a month or two. And for you to tell them that they are not allowed to make any sort of decision beyond the first month, when a lot of people don't even figure it out until the first month or two, like, that's how a lot of people figure it out. I missed my period.
Right.
And you're telling them that they only have 6 weeks to decide when they've burned 4 weeks just living their life normally?
Yeah.
Like, it's not a matter
that's
of,
why
I
totally get it. And that's why I'm more very pro-choice more than pro-life. I do believe, but there's also, I see a lot of kids out there, and I see a lot of babies out there and parents out there that do not deserve kids and have no rights being parents, and that's why I'm pro-choice. You're going to torture that child and put them through more than what they should have been put through. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to you. And there's a lot of different circumstances as far as rape, financial stability, or just, you know what I mean?
I think what you hit on there, more on the second part, is we brand this as the land of the free. If you're not financially stable and you're a single mother, say you had completely 100% consensual sex with a man and you became pregnant as a result, and this man doesn't want anything to do with it or what have you, I mean, what? You're
going to be punished for that decision
for the rest of your...
Right.
That we always talk about, oh, you're going to punish... The counter argument I hear from religious folk often is, oh, you're going to punish the child. It's like, well...
Not punishing anybody.
Yeah, I mean, if
You're
it's between,
sparing the
if it's
punishment.
between this potential life and my own, call me selfish, but I'm alive now,
Right.
and I've been alive for this long.
And you've also seen people, and I mean, there's different circumstances where
Yeah,
they've
and
gotten
you've
abortions and they've gone on to have kids in a better situation.
Exactly.
Very pro-choice. I don't believe in somebody else telling you what you should do with your body and the decisions you should make.
Should be allowed to make or not make. Correct.
Right.
Correct.
It's kind of slavery.
Yeah, being pro-life is telling somebody that they're not allowed. They don't have the freedom to make the choice.
Right.
This is the land of the free. To reiterate that to anybody listening, if you think this is the land of the free, then I challenge you to tell me what is free about telling a woman she's not allowed to have an abortion. Tell me what freedom that woman is empowered with by you telling her she is not allowed. That's the opposite of freedom.
Say if rich white men had the same decisions to make, do you think we would still be considered pro-choice? Hell no. They would be all for it.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a man who had to make the choice,
Yeah,
we wouldn't be having the same
Exactly.
conversation.
Exactly. And that's the argument that women make all the time, is because we don't have to carry it.
No, we don't. Guys don't have to carry it, and guess who's the one making the decision? Rich white man.
Exactly. And then when you look at, our Congress and our House of Representatives and on the state level all around the country, not only at the federal level, but the state level, the majority of the population, white men.
White men. They've been controlling it for years.
Exactly. And that's where it becomes
one of the saddest things I've ever said, and this is from experience, is that being born white and in America, and also being a male, is probably one of the greatest things you could ever be born into, but it's also one of the most disgraceful things, because you can get away with so much and control so much, and you have so much ability over white women, period, black women.
Double-edged sword, bro.
Double-edged sword. It's one of the greatest things. I can be pulled over by a cop, not have my registration like I have before, been speeding, have, contraband on me, and have somebody wave me on. But if I'm a black man rolling in a car or a black woman, guess what? I'm going to get a little bit extra harsh punishment. And I don't care who you're talking to.
I mean, I've played it for you before, and I've played it to anybody that's never heard him. And it's not to anybody that's listening that hasn't heard this song before. White Dude by Lil Dicky. It portrays basically everything that you just described. I mean, there's scenes, it's a music video, obviously, so it's all staged.
Oh, but there's all truth behind it.
But the scene with him smoking a bowl in front of the cops and just this, that, and the other. I mean, the whole thing, he says it at the beginning or at the end. It's not about him hating on any other particular race. It's just all the benefits that are open to white men in America.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with hating on any particular... He's not hating on any particular race. It's all about just what you can do as a white man that you can't do as any of those other races.
It's a big thing that often white men often take for granted. I mean, you need to be very happy that you were born white in America, because it is not so-called the land of the free, as they said. I mean,
it's not. It's not free at all.
There's obviously a very big prejudice, whether you like to believe it or not, of being non-white in America. I mean, it's a melting pot, but we don't all have the same rights. I don't give a shit what anybody says.
I just was watching, I forget what news station it was earlier. I want to say maybe...
Fox News is full of white people.
Oh, I mean, yes.
Conservatives.
It doesn't... I mean, but we've obviously had the discussion that all the news sources are funded by somebody that's got an opinion. But I found it interesting. They were talking... I want to say maybe it was NBC this evening. Dude, they're talking about To Kill a Mockingbird and its relevance in today's society.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
We should be over this shit. We should be past this. The civil rights movement was 60 years ago.
And we're still doing it.
It is like a complete reboot. Like, we are doing it. We're just like restarting.
We were talking about police brutality and prejudice 60 years ago, and look what we're still dealing with.
It's the same fucking thing. Yeah, sorry.
Are we really progressing? Not.
Sorry nobody's hooked up a hose to a fire hydrant. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't far off.
No, we're not far
And
off
it's
at all. We're
fucked
still
up.
talking about the same shit. We're not progressing
No, it's
as much
fucked
as we
up,
should.
and I don't
be.
want anyone to convey what, I just said as being...
We're recognizing the issue still.
Yeah, racially charged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's nobody's fucking pulling out the fire hoses or anything like that, but don't think that we don't see the differences. Don't see that we see the subtle, you've changed how you react to people, but not enough for us to not see the motivation behind it.
I understand why there's a lot of angry, and I don't want to just say just black people in America, but I would be angry too if I felt held back by the fucking system and you have no chance to progress. You're born
it sucks.
You're born into the same thing as your father was born into, you know what I mean? The same prejudice, the same fucking ghetto or hood that you're born into.
Absolutely.
I would be an angry person too. And you know what?
It's
For
systematic.
those yeah, absolutely. And all those people are like, well, why are black people and Latino people have to be, so outlandish and so loud? You know what? If I felt prejudiced against and I was in a room full of people, I would probably want to lash out too and say, this is me, this is who the fuck I am. If you're going to label me, well, then you're going to get the full-blown fucking effect. I'm going to be in your face with it, and I'm going to annoy the shit out of you with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know it bothers you.
Yeah.
If this is the only thing that I can have and make you realize that I'm fucking still stuck in the same strut that my father was, well, then fuck you. I'm going to make you fucking realize
100%, bro. You hit the nail on the head. Nothing's changed. Have the neighborhoods changed? Have the schools changed? Have
It
anything?
took me a long time to realize, when people say, it's new slavery with putting black men in jail, and it's fucking serious. It's a lot of stupid ass bullshit crimes for marijuana, simple fucking drug charges that are putting these guys away for years.
Wait,
the war on drugs is
initiated
a prime example.
Is
modern day slavery.
Initiated by our white savior Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
Oh, he's a great man. He's
right.
Such a great.
Say no to fucking drugs.
He's such a good person.
Right.
He's great. He's the best. And I'm not gonna sit here and shit on Ronald Reagan, because in all honesty, we've had far worse presidents. He wasn't a horrible person, but in that regard, that the war on drugs and everything, just like you said,
we knew who it was targeting.
Yeah. Same with what else was popular during Reagan's presidency. Any coincidence that the AIDS and HIV epidemic came to a climax?
Who they associated it with?
Came to a
gays
climax.
And fucking black people.
More so the latter.
Right.
More so the latter. War on drugs. Who's that target? Poor people.
Poor people.
Who's poor? The African Americans in our community. Because they haven't been able to get themselves over the slavery hump that you had them in just 70 years earlier. Sorry that some people, it doesn't take just a generation.
If I was living in the projects with no fucking chance to get a job, at least a decent job to pay my fucking wage, and I felt like I had no other choice, you know what? If I saw quick money and I knew it was going to sell, what are you going to do? It's the same thing as, would you steal a piece of bread to feed your fucking family, even though it's wrong? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Would you kill to save a life?
Oh, absolutely. It's sad that we haven't progressed anymore as a country or as a whole period.
Yes.
And that's why I feel kind of liberal, and these rich people who make all this money and don't feel like they should be taxed as much.
Conserve what?
Conserve what? What are you trying to conserve?
The power struggle is what they want to
really
conserve.
need $100 million in your bank account,
bro.
When you have,
bro.
What pisses me off? One thing that pisses me off is one thing. We have lotteries in each fucking state that gives away millions of dollars to one single person that happens to pull a number right, but yet we still have poverty. We still have fucking people that are head over heels in debt from a system that pretty much drags you into it from college, home loans, shit like that. Why are we giving away so much money when we have all this money? We're like, well, we don't have money for it. We don't have money to, go down to New Orleans and rebuild the city. Well, it's because you're giving away 100, 200, 500 million fucking dollars to somebody that just happened to pick a right number.
Mm-hmm.
It's sickening. So does that make me liberal for thinking that, all money should be distributed kind of equally? If that's the case and it's Marxism, then by God, go and say it. But it just makes no sense to me that there is a welfare system, but yet we're giving millions of dollars away for a fucking lottery.
You remember the book?
Just because you picked out a fucking number right. Gambling. Legal gambling.
You remember the book that you started our book club off with?
The People's History of the United States of America.
And what history or and what chapter are we on now? I just wrapped up chapter 5.
Oh, you're farther ahead than I am. I just happened to learn about how we dicked over the Indians so much.
And everything that you just described.
I'm into slavery right now and the black civil rights.
Everything you just described is in the chapter titled Tyranny is Tyranny.
Tyranny is tyranny. What separates it?
Tyranny is tyranny. So the idea is that the founding fathers, what we describe as the founding fathers of our country, basically wanted to maintain the balance between British wealth and American labor.
Mm-hmm.
Those gentlemen were well-to-do businessmen. Like they were wealthy already.
Mm-hmm.
They had connections with Britain. The idea behind the American Revolution was to sever the ties that were hindering them from gaining their most profit, because some of their profit was being throttled by those in Britain that they still had connections to.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was, how can we stop sending all this money over to Britain and keep it in our own pockets, but make the people that are really upset about the work that they're doing think that it's Britain's fault?
Okay.
So basically, like when the Stamp Act and things were enacted by England, the people here were like, oh, fuck the Stamp Act, fuck the Stamp Act, fuck those British motherfuckers, fuck those motherfuckers, fuck them, fuck them, fuck them, fuck the king, fuck this, fuck that. And they get everybody all pissed off about it so that they all do something about it,
right,
and overturn it. But then you keep yourself in the position that you're in. Like, oh, I'm so cool with Britain, I'm so cool with these people. Like, oh, I'm cool with these people because I got it overturned, but I'm still cool with Britain because I'm going to be their go-to guy for the next thing that they're going to introduce. So obviously when the Stamp Act, fails or gets repealed, whatever comes down the pipeline next, you give it to me. I'll be able to promote it in a way that these people are not going to be upset. And if they are upset, then I'm going to play to their upsetness in order to convey the message to you that we need to tweak this in order to do it in such a way that they're not going to be upset, but still willing to pay their money. And that's basically a pretty good description of what our quote-unquote founding fathers are.
Slave owners and hemp growers.
Compromisers. Compromisers. They want what's best for them. They want what's best for them and their family, just like everybody else.
Right.
But what's unfortunate is you put them in charge of the country, and what becomes best for them all of a sudden becomes law and order.
Based on what?
Based on what they want. What they want. What's important to them.
It's kind of interesting that Republicans used to be considered kind of democratic.
Oh yeah,
Democrats
everything's flipped.
Everything is flipped. It's funny to think that Republicans were fighting for, to abolish slavery, but the Democrats weren't. It's kind of funny how it all flipped on us after Lincoln.
It's just and again, right there, that's just evidence of itself how people can switch one side to another. How an ideology can be viewed
if you were to tell people
as progressive one way 100 years ago and conservative another way 100 years later.
If you were to tell me 5 years ago, before I read into it, that Republicans fought to abolish slavery, I would probably think you were full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
It is quite interesting.
There are a lot of things that just picking up a book can answer for you, man.
It's amazing that we're still, what, 170 something, well, longer than that, and we're still... Black people are still fighting for the right. This is all going back, but
let me ask you this. How long has the nation of Italy / Rome been around?
Oh my gosh.
You think that we've got anything figured out?
Oh no, Rome fell.
What about Egypt? Egypt's a country still.
Yeah.
You want to tell me that they've got it all figured out?
Rome collapsed, and so will America eventually.
Egypt. Oh yeah. I mean, that's from Catch-22. But Egypt was dealing with slavery like 6,000 years ago, bro. Like, we're talking about like 100 years ago. Like, Egypt had like the Jews enslaved like 6,000 years ago. And like, obviously they've had all sorts of different governments since then. But like, for us to think that we all got it figured out in 150 years like that is ignorant as fuck.
It's crazy how progressive.
It's ignorant.
Yeah.
It's pure ignorance to think that Americans are like, oh yeah, humans have been enslaving other humans for millennia, and we've gotten over it in 150 years.
Never.
You think you're going to get over it in 150 years, and that the black people forgot? Like, they ain't gonna forget ever until it's all equal.
Until white men.
Until it's all equal. White
men. I still attest to this. Until white men get done running the country, I think it's great.
That's why
I think it's a great idea for scientists, engineers, and all these people. They should be the ones running the country. Scientists, environmentalists.
But now, do you see why Barack being elected president was such a big deal?
Absolutely.
I mean, I understand that most people, but like what you just said, once white men stop running the country, that's like that right there. That statement is the all-encompassing nature of what you're trying to emphasize.
Right.
Like, that's the opportunity right there. A non-white man was at the head of the country.
But do you feel like he should have done more, though?
Dude, I think Barack did.
I like Barack as president, and I thought he was a very good speaker, but being from Chicago, I feel like he should have done more for...
He could... All right, let me get this. Let's hash a couple things out. First of all, could he have done more? Probably. Did he legalize marriage between gay couples? Did he put an end to Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Did he get Osama bin Laden? As a president, what more could he have done to make you happy? To make you happy. On top of just the average American, what could he have done to make you happy? I mean, because like...
Besides his healthcare plan, which I didn't agree with that everybody... I agree with everybody should have healthcare, but I feel like you shouldn't have been taxed for it every year for not having it. I think that was one thing, but not everything that he did I was going to agree with, and that's never going to happen with any president.
50-50, man.
50-50.
50-50. As much as 50-50 we want to...
I feel like he should have... I feel like he should have done more from where he was from, Chicago, and fixing that area, but he is nothing compared to what he was conveying as a president to what Trump is doing now.
Oh, absolutely not. No, he stuck to what he was going to do a little bit more.
Right. I like the fact that one of the things that I like about being liberal is the fact of being environmentally conscious and exactly what's happening.
Remember Cash for Clunkers?
Yes.
That was an Obama thing.
That was an Obama thing, and I actually benefit off of Cash for Clunkers. I wouldn't have got my new vehicle off of that. Piss break. We have a piss break. He broke the seal. He's pushing it out right now. That is a power push if I've ever heard one. It sounds like Niagara Falls. Just powering through it. I feel the relief from this room coming from the bathroom. That's a very long piss. You're just streaming right now. You're still going. I dig it.
What?
He said that was a long piss.
I Tom Hanks this shit. Tom Hanks, League of Their Own.
Oh, that's right. He takes a huge long piss in a League of Their Own.
Tom Hanks, League of Their Own.
And that's how we're going to wrap up the first episode of the Catch the Sky podcast. Remember that you can interact with us on Twitter at CTS Terry or on Facebook by searching Catch the Sky podcast. We appreciate you tuning in and hope you enjoyed all of our content. Until next time, keep trying to catch the sky.